It was late at night. The streets were quiet, drowned in a half-light from scattered street lamps. An exhausted man drove slowly toward his neighborhood. His face carried the weight of the day, responsibilities at work, endless tasks, but beneath the fatigue was a simple comfort, the thought of going home. Home meant peace. Home meant his wife's smile. But that night, he saw something that shattered everything. From a distance, he noticed a car. A familiar car. His wife's car. Parked outside a house that shouldn't have been hers. His son-in-law's house. At first, he told himself it was a coincidence. Maybe she was visiting for some innocent reason. Maybe she had stopped by to help with something. But his heart pounded with a fear he couldn't explain. A fear that whispered, something isn't right. He turned off his own engine and let the silence of the night wrap around him. The faint barking of stray dogs echoed in the distance. Slowly, step by step, he walked toward the house, his ears sharpening, his breathing shallow. And then, he heard it. Laughter. From inside. But it wasn't the laughter of comfort or family, it was sharp, secretive. A laughter that tasted like betrayal. He moved closer to the window, hidden in the shadows, and the voices grew clearer. A man's voice, his son-in-law. Don't worry. That fool will never suspect a thing. All his wealth, all his work, everything he built, it'll soon be ours. Then came another voice. A voice that froze his blood. His wife. Yes, all of it will belong to us. He trusts me blindly. He sees love in my eyes. He's proud of this family, but soon, he won't even know what hit him. His time is over. In that moment, the ground beneath him seemed to vanish. His chest tightened, his breath stopped. Betrayal didn't just sting, it tore him apart. His wife. His own blood. And the man his daughter had married. Together. Plotting his ruin. Every instinct inside him screamed to storm inside, to shout, to demand answers, to break everything in sight. But then, another voice rose within him. A colder, quieter voice. Not now. Stay silent. Watch. Listen. Patience will be your weapon. Tonight, your tears are wasted. Tomorrow, they'll be your sword. His fists clenched, his jaw tightened, but he forced himself to walk back. Step by step, as if his legs were made of stone. He reached his car, sat behind the wheel, and stared into the darkness. His eyes burned, not only from tears, but from a fire being born inside him. That night, something inside him died. But something else was born. He whispered to himself in the silence. I won't scream. I won't break. I'll gather proof. I'll play the fool they think I am. But deep inside, I've already written their end. And as the night passed, a new chapter of his life began. A chapter not written with rage, but with patience. Not with blood, but with strategy. A silent revenge, slowly taking shape in the shadows. People don't betray you on the day they stop loving you. They betray you on the day you stop paying attention. Those words echoed in his mind as he stared at the ceiling that night, unable to sleep. His memory pulled him backward, to a time when everything seemed perfect. He remembered the first time he saw her. It was years ago, at a family gathering. She had walked in with quiet elegance, her smile warm, her laughter pure. She wasn't just beautiful, she was magnetic, the kind of woman who made the room feel brighter without even trying. Back then, he was an ordinary man with big dreams. No money. No empire. Just ambition. And yet, she chose him. She believed in his fire. He worked 2 jobs, sacrificed nights of sleep, built everything brick by brick, because he wanted to give her the world. And for years, it felt like she was his world. The way she looked at him when he signed his first big contract. The way she held his hand when business risks nearly broke them. The way she whispered, "We'll get through this. Together. Together." That was the word that had carried him through storms. But somewhere along the way, together began to fade. It started small. Subtle. She would stay out later than usual, with excuses that sounded just a little too rehearsed. Her phone, once casually left on the counter, was now always locked, always hidden. And her laughter, it had changed. Once, it belonged to him. Now, it seemed to belong to someone else. He remembered a night not long ago. He had come home early, hoping to surprise her with dinner. The house was quiet, too quiet. He called her name, no answer. Her purse was gone. Hours later, she returned, smiling faintly, saying she had been with friends. But her perfume carried a trace of something unfamiliar, something that wasn't his. He noticed, but he said nothing. Because love makes you blind. And trust makes you silent. Then came the son-in-law. At first, he welcomed him into the family with open arms. A young man, energetic, full of charm. He thought his daughter was lucky to have him. He trusted him like a son. Gave him opportunities, business connections, even advice on building a career. But soon, patterns emerged. The son-in-law always seemed too close. Too eager. Too comfortable in spaces that weren't his. And his wife, she laughed at his jokes a little too much. Stood a little too close. Defended him a little too quickly. Back then, the husband pushed the doubts away. "I'm overthinking," he told himself. "They're family. Nothing more." But now, sitting alone in the darkness of betrayal, he realized the truth. The cracks had been there all along. He just didn't want to see them. That night, as memories clawed at his chest, he made himself a promise. If they thought he was blind, he would stay blind. If they thought he was weak, he would act weak. Because true revenge isn't loud. It's patient. It's silent. And when it arrives, it feels like justice written by destiny itself. He closed his eyes, whispering. "They think they've already won. But they've only just begun my game." They thought he was broken. But broken men don't plot. Broken men don't wait. And he was far from broken. The morning after that night of betrayal, he woke up with a stillness in his eyes. Not the stillness of despair, no. The stillness of calculation. His wife smiled at him over breakfast, as if nothing had happened. Her voice was soft, her eyes convincing, but now he knew. Every word, every glance, every gesture, it was a performance. He nodded, played along, even kissed her hand. Inside, his mind whispered, "Keep acting. Let her believe you're blind." Step 1 was patience. He knew anger would destroy him. But evidence, that would destroy them. Quietly, he began recording. A hidden microphone slipped under the living room table. A discreet camera, positioned just right in his study. His phone, set to record whenever he left the house unexpectedly. And slowly, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. He captured their phone calls, whispers of greed, of schemes to drain his accounts. He caught video of them meeting late at night in the very home he built with his own 2 hands. He listened to conversations that spoke not just of betrayal, but of hatred, his wife mocking his loyalty, his son-in-law laughing at his blind trust. Every file he collected was a dagger. But instead of stabbing, he saved them, organizing, storing, building a silent arsenal. Outwardly, nothing changed. He still brought flowers home. Still asked about her day. Still laughed with his son-in-law at the dinner table. But inside, he was watching. Measuring. Studying every move. The more they thought he was blind, the bolder they became. And the bolder they became, the more evidence he gathered. Each smile he gave them was a mask. Each laugh was a shield. Because revenge doesn't come from rage. Revenge comes from control. Once his proof was complete, he began the next phase, strategy. First, he moved his wealth. Quietly. Carefully. Without leaving a trace. The properties they thought were in his name were suddenly transferred to a trust, controlled by him alone. The accounts they believed they would inherit were emptied into investments no one could touch. Next, he began building alliances. Old friends in law enforcement. Business partners who owed him favors. A lawyer whose silence could be bought with loyalty. Piece by piece, he designed a trap. Not the kind that snapped shut immediately. The kind that let the prey walk freely, until they were too deep to escape. One night, as he tucked the final folder of evidence into his safe, he stared at it for a long moment. Inside those papers, recordings, and photographs lay the destruction of two people who had underestimated him. He whispered into the darkness. "You thought you buried me. But I am the seed. And tomorrow, you'll watch what grows." And with that, the silent countdown began. Revenge isn't about anger. It's about timing. And his timing was perfect. The day came quietly, like any other. The sun rose. The house smelled of coffee. His wife hummed in the kitchen, unaware she was standing on the edge of her own destruction. The husband buttoned his shirt, adjusted his tie, and looked into the mirror. For the first time in months, he didn't see a broken man staring back. He saw the architect of justice. That evening, he invited them both, his wife and son-in-law, into his study. The mood was casual. Drinks were poured. Laughter filled the air. Then, slowly, he pressed a button on a small remote. The television flickered to life. At first, they smiled, thinking it was a movie. But then, they saw themselves. Video after video. Audio after audio. Their late-night whispers. Their secret meetings. Their plan to steal everything. Their mockery of the man sitting in front of them. The color drained from their faces. The wife gasped, covering her mouth. The son-in-law stammered, this isn't what it looks like." But he just leaned back in his chair, silent. Calm. Watching them drown in the weight of their own betrayal. Finally, he spoke. His voice was steady, almost cold. "You thought I was blind. You thought I was weak. But I see everything. And I forget nothing." The room went silent. The only sound was the faint buzz of the recording still playing. He opened a drawer and placed a thick folder on the desk. Inside was every piece of evidence, organized, undeniable. Then he slid another folder across the table. "Divorce papers," he said. "Already signed. Already filed. And all the wealth you thought was yours? Gone. Moved beyond your reach." His wife trembled. "Please, we can fix this." But he raised a hand. "Fix? You broke what can never be fixed." The son-in-law tried to stand, but two men entered the room, old friends from law enforcement. Silent, stone-faced. They placed a hand on his shoulder, showing him the arrest warrant. Fraud. Embezzlement. Conspiracy. All backed by the evidence he had gathered. The son-in-law's face crumbled. His wife screamed his name, but it was useless. The trap had shut tight. The husband stood, walked to the window, and looked out into the night. His voice was low, almost like a whisper to himself. Revenge doesn't need to be loud. Sometimes, silence is enough. Weeks later, he walked alone through the home that once echoed with lies. The silence now was different, not heavy with betrayal, but light with freedom. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't celebrating. He was simply, at peace. Because revenge isn't about making them suffer. It's about taking back control. And he had done exactly that. As he closed the door behind him, the screen fades to black, and one final line appears. They thought they ended his story. But he had only just begun a new one.